Okay, today we're going to go over our homework for box plots. Now I know this looks a little bit different, but what happened was I recorded it. I stayed at school till 6:30 and then I forgot to upload it. So I wanted to make sure you had something to go off of tonight. And I will replace this hopefully with the video that I made using the actual homework. I did end up copying this down onto paper. Yes, I am aware that it's not quite fitting, but I'm making do with what I have. Okay. For number 1, on the side without the story problems. So one side we have story problems. One of them says that a grocery store logged how many pounds of apples it sold over 9 days. And the other side had 3 problems. We're on the side with 3 problems. Okay, I can't zoom out, unfortunately. I'm stuck this close to my paper. So we're just gonna have to make do with that. The first step I'm going to make is I am going to reorganize my data from least to greatest. Okay, so I have to reorganize my data. I cannot do this without doing this. Okay, so my lowest number is 1. I'm going to write it really small right here below my Q1. So 1, I have a 3. Oh, I forgot a 2. I'm going to start all over. So I have 1, a 2, and a 3. There's my 2. There is no 4, 5, 6, or 7. There is an 8 and a 9. There's no 10, but there's a 17. There's a 19, a 20, 22, 24, and a 25. I should have the same number of numbers in both lists. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That is how I know I'm correct in writing down my numbers. Okay, as a reminder, when I'm doing this, I'm looking for 5 different values. So my first one is my minimum. This is my 1. It's my smallest value. My maximum is 25. Now, when I do this, my next value that I am going to find is my Q2. This is also my median. Okay, they are the same thing. So I have to find that middle number. Now, I'm going to go from either end of my data. So 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to cross off 1 here, cross off 1 here. 1 here, 1 here. 1 here, 1 here. 17 is my median. Okay. Now, in order to find my other values, Q1, this is quartile 1. We're splitting up the data into 4 equal parts. So I have to look at the bottom half of my data in order to do that. When I do that, I do not include my median. That is really important. I cannot include that median number. So now I do the same thing, but I'm looking for the middle number in this bottom half, which is 3. Okay, and then I go and do the same thing on the other side. For my upper half, this is my quartile 3. I'm trying to use different numbers or different colors so you can see the difference. So the middle number is 22. Once I get here, I have everything I need to graph my box plot. However, we are asking you to find one more value. And just as a reminder, the IQR is also called the interquartile range. Okay. And this is Q3 minus Q1. It's the middle 50% of my data. So Q3 is 22 minus Q1, which is 3. 22 minus 3 is 19. The variability for the middle 50% of my data is 19. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph all these points. So my minimum value was 1. I'm going to put a vertical line above the number 1. My maximum value was 25, so above the 25, I'm going to also have a vertical line. Q1 is 3. Q2 is 17. And Q3 is 22. And then what I'm going to do, and this is going to be very hard to see on my screen, so I'm going to try to flip it so we can see most of it. I'm going to connect these middle 3 lines and make them into a box. Okay, so let's see if I can show that. It's kind of hard because I didn't bring my stuff to record a video at home. Okay, so I have this box, and now I have to connect my extremes. Okay, so I'm going to go from down at number 1 to 25 so you can kind of see what it looks like. Okay, I have this big long box here. Now that big long box is 50% of my data. Okay, that's a big, huge chunk of my data. I have 25% of it here and 25% of it down here, but a lot of my data is between the numbers 3 and 22. And if I look up here, between 3 and 22, that's a big chunk of data right there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers out of my 11. Okay, now remember, essentially what we did is we took this data here, and if you see where the circles are, it's like we split our data into 4 equal pieces. So I have 1/4 here, 1/4 here, 1/4 here, and 1/4 here. Okay, that's how it's split up visually down here. Okay, going to the next problem. And again, I'm sorry that I cannot unzoom. Okay, so again, we need to go from least to greatest. Okay, so again, I'm going to use this space down here to help me do that, but I'm not going to get too close to my number line because I need to be able to draw my graph above my number line. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to find the lowest one, which looks to be 2. There's no 3, there is a 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, there's a 9. There's a 10. There's not an 11, but there is a 12, a 13, 14, 15, 16. So 13, 14, 15, 16. There's not a 17, 18, 19, or there is a 20. It's not a 21, but there's a 22, a 23, and a 24. So 20, 22, 23, 24. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 numbers. So, very first, I can start with my minimum, which is a 2, and my maximum values, which is 24. Then I can go to my middle number, okay, my Q2. So just like before, I start on the ends and I work my way in until I find that middle number, which is 14. Once I find that middle number, I can find my bottom half of my data and my top half of my data. And then calculate the middles. So, for instance, I have 2, 4, 13, 12. Look, I have 2 middle numbers, which means that I have to add them together and then divide by 2. Okay. Same thing over here. I have 15, 16, 24, 23. I have 2 middle numbers. It equals 42 divided by 2. I am going to use a calculator. So, see if it'll work here. Okay. So I have 9 plus 10 is 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. That is my lower quartile. Okay, my upper quartile is going to be 42 divided by 2, which is 21. That's my Q3. Once I have that, I can go ahead, I can find my IQR really quickly. That's my variability of the middle half of my data. So it's 21 minus 9.5. And I might need to line up decimals for this. Okay, so I'm going to borrow from the ones place. 10 minus 5 is 5. I have to borrow again. 10 minus 9 is 1. 1 minus 0 is 1. My IQR is 11.5. So now I have all the pieces of my data ready to go. So I'm going to graph it. So my minimum is 2. So I put a vertical line above the number 2. My maximum is 24. Q1 is 9.5, so I'm going to find 9, go to the halfway point, put a line up. Q2 is 14, and Q3 is 21. I connect my middle 3 lines to form a box. And then I attach my extremes. And then I've got my box plot. Okay, third one on this side. Again, I'm going to start by going from least to greatest. Okay. In this case, I'm going to actually write it off to the side right here, just because I have the space there and not as much space between my measures that I need and my graph. So I know my lowest number is 1. My next highest number is 7, then 10, 12, 14, 15, 20, 24, and 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once I have that, I can go through my minimum value, 1. My maximum value is 25. Okay, now I'm going to find my middle number, my Q2. So I start on either end. My middle number is 14. Once I have that middle number, again, I can go ahead and find my quartiles, my other quartiles. I've already found one of them. So I have my upper half and my lower half. I usually work with my lower half first, which means that I have 7 and 10. So I have 7 plus 10, which is 17. I divide it by 2. It equals 8.5. My other quartile, I have 20 and 24. 20 plus 24 is 44. Divided by 2 is 22. So my Q3 is 22. Again, my IQR is going to be Q3 minus Q1. Once again, I'm going to move my paper over so I can line up my decimals and practice subtracting decimals. I have to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. Bring down my decimal. I have to borrow again. 11 minus 8 is 3. 13, it's 13 and a half. Okay. Now I can place all my values on my graph. So I have my minimum at 1. My maximum is again at 25. Q1 is at 8.5, so I'm going to find 8 and go halfway between 8 and 9. Q2 is 14. Q3 is 22. I connect those middle 3 boxes, or middle 3 lines to make a box. And then I connect my extremes at the very end. So my box plot should look something like that. Okay. Moving on to the other side, we have 2 more. So, and I copied those down too since I didn't have a electronic copy to make a recording. Okay, number 1. A grocery store logged how many pounds of apples it sold over 9 days. And then we're given the data. Okay, we need to come up with the information for the summary of the data in order to make the box plot. Again, in order to do this, we are going to need to rearrange the numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so my lowest number looks like it's 51. And I'm just going to write that right below. So I have 51. There's not a 52 or a 53, but there is a 54. There's a 55. A 58. 59. There's not a 60 or a 61, but there is a 62 and a 63. A 68 and a 72. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. First, minimum value, 51. It's my lowest value. My highest value, 72. Next, my middle number. So I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. It's this 59 right here. That is my middle number. That's my median. Also known as Q2. Once I have that, I look at the bottom half of my data. I have two middle numbers, 54 and 55. I can do 54 plus 55. It's 109. I divide it by 2. It's 54 and a half. Okay, Q3. I do the same process. My two middle numbers in this case, though, are 63 and 68. So I have 63 plus 68. It's 131 divided by 2. 65 and a half. Okay. Right before I graph, I'm going to find my IQR, which is 65 and a half minus 54 and a half. And again, I need to line up my decimals. So 65 and a half minus 54 and a half. 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 4 is 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. My IQR is 11. Okay, now I'm going to graph all my points. So, my minimum value, I labeled my graph wrong. Okay, we're going to try this. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. This would be 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. This is 70, so 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. Sorry. I wasn't paying attention to my numbers when I labeled. Okay. Now, 54 and a half. I'm going to find 54. Put a line above 54 and a half. I have 51 as my minimum value. Okay. And then I have 59 as one of my values. Okay, and then 65 and a half. Yours are much prettier than mine. And my highest value is 72. So I have these 4 lines, and I'm going to connect, again, those middle 3 to make a box. And then I attach my extremes. Okay. I'm going to quickly fix my other number line too, because it's going to also be off by a little bit in the same way. Okay. Now, number 2 says, one tennis team logged the number of games they won over the course of 13 seasons. So I have 13 numbers here. Again, I have to rearrange them from least to greatest. I cannot do this without that. So my lowest number so far looks like 56. So I'm going to start there. Then I see a 57. There's a 58, a 59, a 60, 61, there's a 62, 63, there's a 64, 65, 66, 67. There's a 68, a 70, 74, and a 75. I'm going to double check that I have 13 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Perfect. Okay, start with my lowest value, then my highest value. And then remember, I need my middle number. So I have one on each end. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. My middle number is 64. At this point, again, I'm going to look at my bottom half of my data to determine what Q1 is. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Look at that. I have two numbers again. 58 plus 59 equals 117 divided by 2 is 58 and a half. On the other side of my data, on the upper half of my data, I have 68 and 70. So 68 plus 70 equals 138. Divided by 2 is 69. Before I start, I'm going to figure out the IQR. So I have 69 minus 58 and a half. Again, I'm going to line up my decimals, practice subtracting. So I have to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. Bring down my decimal. 8 minus 8 is 0. 6 minus 5 is 1. My IQR is 10 and a half. Okay. Now, graphing. I am going to find my lowest value on my graph and put a vertical line. My maximum value was 75. Q1, 58 and a half, so 58 and a half. Q2, 64. Q3, 69. I connect those three lines. And then I connect my extremes on either end. So then my graph looks like this. As always, if you need help, please make sure you come and ask. That's what I'm here for. I apologize for the quality of my video today. Again, it's not because I didn't record it. It's because I forgot to upload it at school. So come in and ask questions if you have questions. Otherwise, I will see you in class.